deeper, but I will hand over to Frank, and you have the floor. Vær så god.
Mange tak. Thank you, Steini, and over to Kjerfi. It's a great pleasure to be back in Iceland, almost back in Iceland, and I promised to give a presentation on some of the new stuff that has come up lately, technology-wise. I have a lot of slides. I'll try to cover them, but they will be accessible for you afterwards. So some of the slides will be reference slides that I'll probably jump fast through. I will try not to speak too fast. If I speak too fast, please do something to try to stop me. I tend to get a little bit excited when I do presentations because I really love the stuff that we are talking about. So I've decided to call this presentation OT, IT, IoT, and all the other stuff, because we are looking into a world where network is merging. We're seeing a lot of stuff coming into the networks. But before I go into that, I will just give you a short introduction to where Aruba is today. I hope that most of you know HPE Aruba, but I will give you a short summary of the history of Aruba. We are basically only a company that are 20 years old. We were founded in 2002, just at the back end of the innovation of Wi-Fi as we know it today. I say Wi-Fi as we know it today because Wi-Fi have been around for a while. But in 2002, Aruba was based in order to be a Wi-Fi company to create secure access on Wi-Fi. And that has always been the DNA of Aruba as a company. If you look at this slide, you can see the evolution that Aruba has gone through with security and indoor locations, and everything has been around security and connectivity. Something big happened in 2015. I tend to say that Aruba and HPE merged, but I think that actually it's HPE acquired Aruba, but never mind, that's just a version. At that point in time, I was actually sitting at working with another network vendor, some company with a C, and we looked into this merger and thought, that's fine. The HPEs who have some great switches that nobody knows about is now acquiring some unknown Wi-Fi company. But what really happened back then in 2015 is that the foundation for what we know today as an enterprise-ready platform was founded when HPE acquired Aruba, merging the HPE switches and the Aruba Wi-Fi into a enterprise platform. It has taken some years to get there where we are today, but you can see that some of the evolution that we have went through has been, first of all, with 2015, it was decided that the future of the network within HPE Aruba was to be, the vision was to manage all the network in one platform. It sounds pretty easy, but it's actually rather complex. Those of you who work with Cisco and know Cisco can see that even a big company like Cisco has issues in making platforms work together in one management platform. So it's pretty ambitious to take that decision in 2015. But the evolution has shown that this was the right way to do it. And in 2020 and 21, the Edge Service Platform was founded as an architecture in order to do this. As I said, the DNA of Aruba comes from security and connectivity. And there's something that I really like about Aruba. I've been with Aruba for 1 year now. I really like that what we say is what we do. There's some taglines within Aruba for us as system engineers in the sales force as well. But never leave a customer behind, which means that we have customers today running the 100 series of APs in a management platform that actually works today. We have customers running the central platform, the cloud-based management platform, with 300 series APs, and we just announced the 600 series. So we have a legacy of never leaving a customer behind to make sure that you can actually reuse the hardware you have in a future setup. I just spoke with a customer the other day who was a little tired of my old company because he now had to change to a new Wi-Fi platform, and he had to get a whole new set of controllers. So he will now have 3 sets of controllers on different generations in order to run his Wi-Fi. So we don't have that issue within Aruba. Another thing that is important for us is the tagline that people move and network follows. And you will probably know this when you move around from office to office, location to location, take the plane and log on in another branch office, that you move around, but you like the network and security profiles moving with you. So wherever you work from or wherever you are, you will have the same experience as being within the network company. That's a nice echo there. And the third tagline is connect, protect, analyze, and act.
Yeah, wait, I'm trying to.
Do you have the echo?
Yeah, we are fixing it.
I think it's gone.
Okay.
Brilliant, because I'm not that happy of hearing myself. But that's the microphone on the laptop that you're presenting on.
Okay.
Is it fixed? Yeah, that's much better. It was a kind of nice. It was a nice effect to have, but I probably get a little bit tired of it eventually. And then the third tagline we have is connect, protect, analyze, and act. So whenever we connect something to the network, we need to protect it. And when we have protected, we need to analyze and act on it. And you'll see the presentation where I go through the technologies of that this is what is driving Aruba as a company and a technology company, is those things. Never leave the customer behind. Make sure that network follows the people, and make sure that we can actually work with the network intelligently. And the figure in the bottom of this slide, which you probably cannot see, is the Gartner Magic Quadrant for Wi-Fi and LANs, and for 16 consecutive years, Aruba has been in the top right-hand corner. It's probably for most customers it doesn't matter, but for us as a company, it's pretty nice that Gartner acknowledged that we are leading within the Wi-Fi and LAN technology. I've been working with IT 27, 28, many years. And I started back in the old days in the data center. And then what you see here on the left-hand side of this slide is a traditional data center. It's a perimeter firewall, 2 firewalls. So there's a perimeter security area, and in the middle of this you have the rack spaces, the racks with all the servers and the stuff running on the data center. That's a centralized data center. I know it looks like something else, but it shows what a data center looked like in the old days. The problem is that nowadays this is not any near what a data center looks like, because our data is anywhere else but in the data center. It's in some kind of cloud service, a co-located data center. Very few of us actually have our own data centers where all our data centers is hosted. And what has driven this transition from a centralized data center to a multi-cloud data center world is the transformation within the digital transformation. We have seen latency going down on our wide area network, so we can actually now use the WAN to something business-like, because we don't have the same latency we used to have in the lines. We have higher speeds, better connections, more reliable connections. At the same time, we've seen companies change in order to have multiple branches, so they're all over the place. And with the Corona we have the last 2 or 3 years, we also been used to work from any other location than the office. And that is also helped by the logistics and the infrastructure in the WAN transformation. And those 2 things has speeded up the security transformation. So now we need to think security completely different than we did 10 years ago. Because when we had the data within the data center, it was fairly easy to secure the data with a perimeter firewall and just to make sure that nothing could come in. The problem today is now we as users and the data is anywhere else but the data center within the office. So we need to think security differently. At the same time, we also see that the world around us is changing. We see 55 billion connected devices worldwide. we talked about this for many years, that the sprawl of connected devices is really growing. The problem is, or the issue for us today is that the devices that are sprawling are basically, or they are more intelligent than they were 5 years ago. So we now start seeing devices connecting to the network in the cloud, at the internet, at the edge, as we call it, produce data that we would like to do something intelligent with. So the devices is not only stupid devices, it is intelligent devices that are creating data. So this is the IoT part of this presentation. Well, it's not the full IoT part, there will be some more slides. And as Gartner says, 75% of all data will be processed outside the traditional data. So go back to the previous slide, that data is anywhere else but within the data center. We have to work with this, because if we as organizations understand how to get these data in and transform them to business value, we can increase our revenue. We can do it much faster because we can do it with more efficiency. If you have intelligent networks where we can work with the data at the edge and start transforming data to information before it hits the business intelligence part, we will be ahead of our competitors in the market within the area we are. So we can increase revenue and enhance experiences for the users, and at the same time we like to decrease cost. But decrease cost in the cloud environment is not easy. I'll come back to that. Oh yeah, and one thinking point. According to studies done by HPE, we believe that 90% of its data is unused or lost. When we looked at this for 10 years ago, we looked into how can I identify or find data at the edge. Now it's not a problem to identify or find data at the edge. Data is everywhere. The problem today is to recognize which of these data has a business relevance. So what kind of data is it I want to extract from my devices, from the edge, from the network, in order to create value for my business? So it's not a problem about data anymore, it's the amount of data that is a problem. And this transition to within data modernization also means that we need to look at our network in a different way. There are many networks sitting around that is where the switches and the infrastructure, the core infrastructure, is 7 or 8 years old, because it works. It's maybe you as a customer transitions to 1 gig 10 years ago and it works fine, so you don't have to. There's no need to change the network because it works fine as it is. You have a number of VLANs, and the problem is that you're starting to add intelligence to the edge. So you're starting now to have transition at the endpoints. You will have faster, newer desktops and laptops. You will have access control systems. You will have automated stock systems. You will have IoT devices feeding the network with data, which means that you now have an obsolete switch core infrastructure, because the APs is now catching so much Wi-Fi data that it can simply not feed it towards your infrastructure. So there are a lot of stuff is happening within the data center. At the same time, we see data going outside the data, so it's kind of leaving the network infrastructure to go to the cloud. So our users and our devices are sometimes directly connected to the cloud outside our own data center, and which outside our security control. So the edge, the cloud, and things that are connected is really giving us some issues here. And this means that we have to implement some intelligence at the network. And this is the reason that Aruba, HPE Aruba, made this edge service platform architecture. And this is our architecture for the future of the network. And not only the future, it's here today. There are 3 main pillars of 3 main layers in this architecture. The first one is unified infrastructure. The second one is edge to cloud, which of course is combined with the stuff I just talked about. And the last one is artificial intelligence operations, AI ops. because we would like to work as much as with the data as close to the edge as possible before it hits the network. We want to work with the data so we have the right data coming into our network, into our databases in our analysis system. And all of this data is coming from different areas. It's come from remote users, branch offices, the cloud, the office, and the data center. When we talk about unified infrastructure, we at Aruba really mean unified infrastructure. For us, it is important that as much as possible of the code that is running in our OSs has to be as identical as possible in order for us to have one management system to manage all our hardware, going from the wireless, the APs, the wired, the switches, the SD branch gateways, our SD-WAN solutions, 5G networks, and IoT. So all of these devices that can connect into the network, as I spoke about in the beginning, it's all about connectivity and security. So whatever connects to the network, we would like to run on an infrastructure that we can manage through one interface to make it easier for the IT organizations. On top of this hardware, we put a lot of software-defined policies. This is all around automation, because with so many devices and so many networks, in order for us to manage it as humans, we need to automate it and also to secure that we do not have too many mistakes. The most 70% of mistakes done in network configuration is done manually when trying to manually configure a network. So can we monitor, can we automate it? That'll take a lot of these errors out of the network. So the software-defined policies is in order to have visibility. We need to see what is on the network because we cannot protect what we cannot see. So we need to understand whatever connects to the network, I will have to have a tool that can identify that something is connecting to the network. It could be a camera, a printer, a coffee machine, refrigerator, a laptop, as whatever it is. If it connects to the network, I need to know. We have customers that we have been talking with and asking them, how many devices do you have on your network? And they have pretty good guessing, but when we then start to do some insights on the network, normally we find 15 to 20% more devices on the network that the customer is actually aware about what's on the network. This visibility to know what is on your network is the foundation for doing authentication. So we can do segmentation and authentication to make sure that the devices, the laptops, the printers, the cameras can only do what we allow them to do, which is a part of the zero trust architecture. And when we have connected stuff to the network, we need to continuously monitor it to make sure that they do not do something out of the normal, to make sure that the network is performing efficiently, that the users are happy about the network, and that policies are met. In the open architecture we have from HPE Aruba, we work together with a number of firewall vendors in order to make sure that the security policies that we create in this visibility authentication period, that those policies is transferred to the layer 7 firewall. So that we do some policies within the network, but that policies is then transferred to the Palo Alto, the checkpoint, or whatever the firewall might be, to make sure that the policies is transparent throughout the network. And finally, of course, we are leaning towards Gartner's SASE, Secure Access at the Service Edge, the 7-layer security model that Gartner has created as a framework for how to make zero trust. That is a part of the architecture. So when we have this unified infrastructure and we have this software-defined intelligence on top of the infrastructure, we also need to have some services to make sure that we can actually use this for something for the business, for us as IT professionals. And that is the AI ops, as we call it. It makes sure that whenever something connects to the network, it will be profiled, segmented, and put into the right network, to the right VLAN or whatever we do. Whenever a switch or an access point connects to the network, it will be automatically provisioned with the right profile according to the position it has. So we can do zero trust provisioning. We can do orchestrating, which is some slides on that afterwards, to make sure that we can actually manage our network and change the network as the dynamics of the users change. As I said, 10 years ago, this was not an issue because the networks was very static. So we had some users and we had some VLANs, and we didn't move. When we set it up, we didn't touch it because it worked. It was secured. There was no need to touch it. Well, maybe we believed it was secure anyway. Today, we need to make sure that we can orchestrate and change the network as the behavior of the users change. And that means that we need to have some analytics, which is part of the Aruba Central. Aruba Central is the cloud management platform that we have from Aruba as one way of managing your network. From Aruba, you can choose to run NetEdit on-premise. You could choose to do Airwave on-premise as well, or you could choose to go in the cloud with Aruba Central. It's a choice. You can always change it as you like, but if you go into the cloud with Aruba Central, which we recommend, you will utilize all the data and information we have in the backend from all the other users around the world. And some of those data is analytics. So when your data or your network is behaving in a manner in the cloud, that will be analyzed towards other networks similar to your network. And you will get recommendations, feed it back in the central to you as an IT professional that other network like yours network is doing this and that. So maybe you should see if you can change your network. And the last 2 points in the services is location analytics, to make sure that we can actually find stuff, to make sure where are users, where are devices in our buildings. And that is what we just announced at Atmosphere. Atmosphere is our user event in March, where we announced Open Locate. I have some slides at the end covering what Open Locate is. But it's a way to make sure that we can actually do heat maps and we can locate devices, that being the boss's PC, to make sure that we know where he is around, or maybe a hospital environment to locate a very expensive equipment. And finally, of course, the whole management side of this, which leads into the orchestration part. As I said, Aruba Central is a cloud management networking platform. So the only thing you have to do as a user is basically to subscribe to the cloud platform. That is free. I know that you know that nothing is free. So the licenses is based on the network nodes you want to monitor. So you buy licenses for the switches, the gateways, and the APs. And then you get access to all the stuff in the cloud, which is what I talked about just before: the unified infrastructure management, the built-in security, the artificial intelligence, and also the extensions towards third-party connectivity, which I will show in this next slide. First of all, on the Wi-Fi side, you will have the possibility to use Central to do intelligent Wi-Fi management. So it can power off and on your access points. It can do frequency control. I will cover that later in the Wi-Fi 6 area of the presentation, because that is when it really becomes important to make sure that you can do radio frequency analysis and automation, so that you can move users around based on which frequency they have the best experience on. Then you can do automated workflows, which you see in the middle page of the middle part of the page. This is where you build your templates and your automated centralized workflows based on if you have a standard configuration for an AP with SSIDs and stuff, or you have a standard configuration for a switch with some port policies. You can build that in the platform and push it out to the devices when they come alive in the network. And of course, you can do live upgrades, and you can also do rollbacks of firmware and stuff like that. So you can basically going to see what is the firmware level of my devices and what is the recommended firmware level for those devices. And then you can do an automated upgrade within the Central platform. But what is even more important for us is to, as I said, from the beginning of Aruba in 2002, it has been about connectivity and security. And we have always had a very open platform because we know that we do not build firewalls. So we need to have an open platform to work together with firewall vendors. And with the sprawl of IoT devices, we now see that we need to continue to have this open platform in order for other vendors building gateways for IoT devices to feed our central platform with data. So we had a number of webhooks and APIs that makes it easier for you as an IT professional to make sure that the central can get data from the IoT devices in your network. Some of the stuff that we get out of the central platform is that we can solve issues faster. Mean time to remediation is improved at 63%. Is feedback from customers, and support tickets is 38% less than we used to be before. So we have a good track record on how you can use the central platform. But of course, it's important for you as a IT professional to make sure that you utilize the intelligence that are in the platform. If you look at if you can see the screenshot from the central platform on the left-hand side, it's highlighted that we are now looking into the AI insights, which is the artificial intelligence gathered from our platforms. The reason we can do this is that we build our own ASICs, our own chipsets that we put into the gateways, the access points, and the controllers. And when we build our own chipsets or ASICs, it also means that they are programmable, so we can actually push intelligence to the edge. And this is one of the reasons that we have such a great AI insights platform. And this is the foundation for what we call analyze and act. Because one thing is that we have access to the data, but we need to make sure that we actually utilize those data to something that makes sense for the business. I've got to skip this, just some numbers on how many endpoints and data points we have to look into. As I said, there's a lot of slides, and you will get the slide deck afterwards, so you can use this for reference. Within the central platform, we have AI Insights, AI Search, and AI Assist as pillars for the artificial intelligence. And this is where you can actually, in AI Search, you have a Google bar on top of the central platform where you can go and search how to update firmware on a controller. And then you will get a lot of hits showing you with videos or PDFs or guides on how to do this. Makes it easier for us as IT professionals to manage our network. Because one thing is that the OpenCareFis consultants is used to do the firmware upgrade, but maybe your own network technician has only done this 1 or 2 times in the last 3 years. And so you use a lot of time to find documentation on how to use this, to do this. If you cannot get a hold of OpenCareFis consultant, and then you can search in here and do it that way. The client inside, the gray, the camera part is actually a part of ClearPass security software that has been migrated into the central platform. And this is really one of the things that we are so very proud of, because client insights is the visibility of the network. So whatever connects to your network, the client inside will see that. So whatever have a MAC address will be identified in the network. So actually out of the box with central platform, you can see whatever is connected to your network. And then, of course, you can do incident detection with utilizing the user experience inside the probe. I have a few slides on that as well later. The problem for us now is that this is only the top of the iceberg. The most exciting part at the moment was this is why I have that opening slide: OT, IT, IoT, and all the other stuff. OT is our operational information system, which we use normally as closed loop systems in production, windmills, energy facilities, or whatever. And IT is the stuff that we normally relate to as IT professionals. And IoT is all that stuff connecting to our network that we didn't know about. And it's just growing and growing and growing. And this slide is to show some of those key partners that we have within Aruba in the IoT space to make sure that we can connect and work with those IoT devices. So if you're working with IoT devices, we have a close connection with Microsoft IoT Hub. The IoT Hub is needed in order to make sure that the IoT data point is gathered and presented in a way that we can understand. And that's also why we need gateways for the IoT devices. But these are some of the key partners that we have. ABB within building construction, smart buildings, Azure Abloy, Clever Lock Systems, Microsoft for thousands of devices, Zebra for handheld devices. So there's a lot of stuff in here. One of these use cases we have is that, which brings me towards the Wi-Fi experiences we have, is that this customer had a issue with users and roaming from IoT users and handheld devices in a factory manufacturing facility, because they're running 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz, and they have poor Wi-Fi performance. The network insight that I talked about prior, that lies within Central, the AI insights, could see that there was a lot of clients that were stuck on 2.4 gigahertz, even though they can run 5 gigahertz. So they set up the Central to automatically move devices to another frequency band if they could do that. So dual band devices running 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz were forced to move to 5 gigahertz, freeing out the 2.4 gigahertz for some of the older devices, which gave a lot of throughput. And this is some of the AI insights that we can utilize in the Central platform. We also have what we call the user experience insight, which is a probe, a hardware device that we put up in a network to simulate different user types. So we actually code it or configure it to simulate devices or users. It could be a office user, it could be a handheld device or whatever. And then we can see how this user is experiencing the network, the performance of the network. And this device runs on any kind of network. It doesn't have to be a Aruba network. It is a system called Cape Systems that Aruba acquired a few years ago. And we've decided to keep this as a standalone product because we fully understand that a lot of people is running any other network but Aruba still. And it's probably going to be that forever. But we can still help people in order to get an insight into the network and the performance of the network. So basically, you put up this device in the network, configure it to the user that you like it to look like, and then this feeds back data to the platform that you can see with green or red smileys how the data is performing, how the network is performing, seen from the user experience. This is really freeing up help desk resources, because the worst case scenario is that when we come in the office Monday morning, the boss come around and said, "What the fuck? What's been going on Friday afternoon? The Teams call was not performing, and the Wi-Fi sucks, and whatever. You're not doing your job probably." But the problem is if we getting that told Monday morning, it's a little bit too late for us to do anything about it. But with the UXI sense, we can actually go back in time and see what was it that happened Friday afternoon, and then we can do remediation and service out of that. We also just announced a software client of the UXI to run on Zebra devices. Zebra devices is used in manufacturing, retail, a lot of stuff, headsets, smart computers, scanners, whatever. A lot of users' devices is running in the Zebra client. So actually now we have a soft client to be put on the Zebra device. One of the main issues the Zebra device has is roaming in Wi-Fi environments in facilities. So at the same time, this also means that we can now actually locate a Zebra device. With the 802.11 MC, which is the location standard, we can actually locate a Zebra device utilizing Wi-Fi to make sure where is the device in the building. This has some benefits, but I will cover that later on in the Open Locate presentation part of it within the next 10 or 15 minutes. So there's a lot of nice outcomes with the Central. This is a marketing slide. If you're really bored, you can read that. Some nice numbers. So now we've done some analyze and act. We did connect, analyze and act, and now we're into the protect part.
Frank.
Yeah.
We just have like 8 minutes left of your presentation. And I think the last part is probably the most interesting one, which is about Wi-Fi 6 and there.
I will speed up and make sure that we have
Yeah,
time to
so
cover
it's a
Wi-Fi 6.
question of whether we would focus on that.
Absolutely,
Okay.
no problem.
Thanks.
So just run through these slides very quickly, and you, as I said, you will have them afterwards. This is just to show the zero trust foundation on how we work with ClearPass. This is all the stuff that we can protect. This is how we do it by doing basically a encrypted firewall tunnel from each of the devices in your network. This is the part of the architecture coming out of the Aruba DNA, which gives you zero trust, and which also can give you this on an SD-WAN connection. So, and this is actually very nice for SD-WAN, but that's it. That is and connection to SASE, and now connect. Yeah. Then we need to connect the stuff. The problem with connectivity is that we have a lot of different aged architectures in our IT environment, and one of the issues is that we can have several generations of Wi-Fi, and this is where Wi-Fi 6 comes into the picture. Wi-Fi 6 is the new name for the 802.11 standard, in order to make sure that normal people like bosses and economical people understand that this is now the newest and greatest. So Wi-Fi 6 is greater than Wi-Fi 5, and Wi-Fi 7 will be even faster. One of the issues we had before Wi-Fi 6 was that, as I said here, that 91% of the channels deployed are below 80 megahertz. That's the bandwidth of the channel. So the wider the bandwidth, the more throughput we can get at the Wi-Fi. We have a lot of devices coming into the network that like to utilize, that takes out more bandwidth and have other frequencies possibilities. And then we also see the sprawl of 5G mobile phones, which also can offload. There's in the Wi-Fi 6 technology, there is a spectrum of the frequency that is combined with 5G. So we can actually run 5G mobile traffic over the Wi-Fi. And this is a huge thing. But let's look into the Wi-Fi 6 and what this is all about. Wi-Fi 6 was basically, for the beginning, it was an expansion of the channel sets, as you see in the light blue area of this slide, going up to 8 megahertz and to 160 megahertz bandwidth of the channel to make sure that we have more traffic going through. You could also do 40 gigahertz on the older architecture by bundling channels. But whenever we bundle something, it has a penalty. So we like to have native bandwidth in order to run as much traffic as possible. The new APs that is coming up right now, Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 6E, have more capacity. It means that they can have more simultaneously users running at the same AP. And that is the benefit of the bandwidth, because we can split up the bandwidth as what we call spatial streams. Within the Aruba architecture and the design of the radios, we can run 37 simultaneously spatial streams on one channel. Where we normally in the old Wi-Fi 5, you could have one channel or one stream at a time sending or receiving messages. So that put a limitation to the numbers of users you could have on one access point, which was the general reason that we went from 4 radios to 8 radios in an office environment. Now we can basically go back to have 2 or 4 radios, because we can run many more simultaneously users on the same frequency. At the same time, we announced Wi-Fi, or the Wi-Fi 6 Consortium Alliance announced Wi-Fi 6E, which was adding 6 gigahertz and 60 gigahertz to the radio spectrum. Be aware that the higher frequency we come up to, the lower range we have on the radio signal. So the higher frequency, the lower range on the signal. By adding 6 gigahertz, we now had a full spectrum with all the frequency spanning from 20, 40, 80 to 160 megahertz native within the frequency spectrum. And we see that all new devices, if you look into laptops or PCs or iPhones and smartphones, they now all come with 6 gigahertz as one of the radios within them. And they will natively try to connect to a 6E Wi-Fi. Another thing that is important here is that with the Wi-Fi 6, we also announced WPA3 security. This is the best security we can get at the moment. This means that if you're running Wi-Fi 6 at both ends, it will create a 256 encrypted traffic mode for you natively within the APs, which is basically what we have been doing from Aruba with the PEF firewall to enforce firewall and tunnel traffic. Now we can get it out of the box with Wi-Fi 6 if we enable it. So there's a lot of benefits with Wi-Fi 6. At the same time, we can also, because of the frequency, we can now set older equipment, we can force that to run on 2.4 gigahertz. Newer equipment on 5 or 6 gigahertz, and most IoT devices will be 5 gigahertz enabled. But this, for us as IT professionals, this means that we have to do some intelligence to make this run. And this is some of the intelligence that we have put into the AI insights and intelligence in the central platform. So this is basically what Wi-Fi 6 is all about. The 6 gigahertz band and the 160 megahertz bandwidth to make sure that we have higher data transmissions, faster data transmission at the same time. So it's a huge benefit for Wi-Fi 6. Wi-Fi 7. I know that we're just shipping Wi-Fi 6 right now, and we're only getting used to Wi-Fi 6 right now. But Wi-Fi 7 has been confirmed as and also been locked as an infrastructure for the next generation Wi-Fi, and we're probably going to see Wi-Fi 7 in the markets in 3 or 4 years in our market with access points and devices that can actually run it. So, but Wi-Fi 7 is already out there, and that has a much more active frequency controlling. It's going to speed up the performance of the Wi-Fi by 40%. So 40 times. It's going to be huge when we go to Wi-Fi 7. But you should not wait for Wi-Fi 7 because then you will have no working Wi-Fi. So this is the products that we have today in Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 6E. The 500 series is running Wi-Fi 6, and the 600 series are running Wi-Fi 6E. I'm going to skip that one because it's just another one on Central, how great it is, because I have something else in the last slides. These are some of the IoT partners that we're working with, and when you get this presentation, you will have there will be links covering this, so you can see that where does all those IoT things pop up. Because the main issue with the security going forward is that we need to make sure that we can secure our full operational network where the OT and the IT merge together. So we need to make sure that we can connect, protect, analyze and act based on that, and orchestrate it. The last thing I want to show you for the last, 1 minute maybe if I'm lucky. We announced back in March OpenLocate. This is a breaking news in the industry. We have actually shipped GPS receivers in our 600 series APs for the last year and a half. And this is announced as OpenLocate. So now we can, with the APs, we can now locate a device in the network with 1 meter's accuracy based on fine time measurement. We have some nice videos on it, and basically if you look into the 600 access point, if you open it, you should not open it, but if you did, you'll see that this chip with the GPS chip has been shipping since the day 1 of the shipment of the access points. Yeah, I knew that I was a little bit ambitious with all the slides, but I know that you're going to get them afterwards. Are there any questions? Anyone awake?
So, thank you so much, Brad, for your presentation. You're at the end?
Yeah.
So, any questions or? Okay.
I will recommend
So
but just one thing, if you really want to go in depth with Wi-Fi 6 and OpenLocate, Chocolate Wachowski has a 55-minute technical video that's live on YouTube that really goes in depth with the frequency spectrum, the radios in the APs, and the OpenLocate. It's really exciting if you are a little bit techy.
Okay. Thank you so much. Maybe I'll have to block. Ég ætlaði að eyða núna einhverjum mínútum, var ég að sýna ykkur þetta stöf, ekki mikið og ekki djúpt, bara rétt að snerta á Aruba Central. Við erum búin að gera einhverja prófanir, við erum búin að tengja einhverja viðskiptavini og erum með demo-uppsetningu sem með 100 viðskiptavina í og eina litla. Ég ætla að sýna ykkur hvernig við gerum 802.x auðkenningu mjög auðveldlega á móti axelpunkti. Og það skemmtilega, það alltaf gaman að sjá hvort að það sem var hér þeorist á glærunum, kannski svona of mikið þeorist og of lítið fysiskt, hvort að það hérna sé ekki að fara að sýna okkur. Það sem hann var að segja okkur og svo sem eftir að HPE kaupir Aruba átti eitthvað skýjatól sem heitir Aruba Central og notað til þess að stýra tækjum og tólum, svissum, þráðlausum punktum og gatewayum sem eru basically eldveggir eða einhvers konar rátirar. Og þeir sameinuðu sína skél, þar sér sitt kerfi við hérna inn í hérna tól sem heitir HPE Greenlake og ég hefði nú viljað sjá mynd frá mér á skjánum þá lofar ég stikki í samband. Þá kæmi hann. Þannig svo það sko. Býtu. Vaslaði þetta. Eitthvað að gerast. Sér. Okay. Já, þannig að Aruba Central hluti af Aruba Greenlake og Greenlake stór tækniskel sem að HPE HPE Enterprise, sem notuð til þess að leigja út tölvuafl, diskafl og annað alveg niður á gólf hjá viðskiptavinunum í einhverjum einingum. Því miður þá erum við ekki að selja það hér upp á Íslandinu góða ennþá, en Aruba vörurnar undir Greenlake. Þannig að öll tækin, öll leyfin, öll stjórnun á notendum og öðru slíku í Greenlake plattforminu og síðan Aruba Central keypt bara svona í tölvumiðstöð hver instans. Við getum valið hvar við keyrum þetta upp, hvort við keyrum þetta í Evrópu, Bandaríkjunum, Nýja-Sjálandi eða verður. Hérna ég með svona testumhverfi þar sem að tiltölulega einföld heimsmynd. Það eru þessi tveir bæir sem allir ráða á Íslandinu góða. Það Reykjavík og Sauðárkrókur. Og þetta var nú fyrir framsóma, hann örugglega ekki hérna í húsinu. Pétur, jú, þú ert þarna. Já, Pétur. En hérna, það sem ég ætlaði að sýna ykkur hér bara, hér ég búin að logga mig inn á Aruba Central. Hérna ég með framhliðin á þessu og þið sjáuð einhverja pinna hérna niður sem segja okkur að það eru einhver location og þeir eru grænir, allt út í fyrir. Og ég fari hérna og húverað yfir og þá sé ég hversu margir punktar eru þar og annað. Þess ég ætla að sýna ykkur síðan einhver listi yfir devices. Þetta eru þráðlausir punktar eingöngu, þetta á svissum, bara frá Unify eða Cisco eða whomever. Og það sem að búið að gera þessu tæki að það búið að segja við þau bara, herru, hringdu heim. Og öll tækin frá Aruba, bara með einni skipun í þeim, að láta þau hringja heim í Central og þá húkka þessu. Þetta tekur 1 mínútu. Það sem við sjáum hérna að Sauðárkróki í skrifstofunni við með einn þráðlausa punkt, hann online og hérna annar og hinn sem í Skútuvogi 8 til 10 og þeir eru líka online. Og við erum ekki með neina svissa undir þessu, ég get farið hérna inn og ég get séð hvaða clientar eru hérna inni, hverjir eru ekki og þetta nú ekki flókin heimsmynd, þetta eru 2 klientar sem eru tengdir hér núna og það sem ég ætla að sýna ykkur að, ok, hérna erum við að fylgjast með tækjunum, ég get forritað, það að segja stýringin á forritunum á búnaðinu kemur alfarið héðan, bara svona svipað eins og við sjáum ekki í heiminum. Það sem hins vegar áhugavert við þetta að hann var að segja að Aruba búið að vera að flytja mjög mikið allir radíustjórnunni sinni þeir sem að þekki til dæmis ICE frá Cisco, það búið að vera að flytja opbóðslega mikið af functionality, sérstaklega functionality sem að auðkennir endanotandan, veit hvað hann gerir og svona verkfæri til þess að stýra ákvarðanatökum hvað hann má á netinu og hvað hann má ekki. Og þessi umhverfi og þessi heimur miðar að því að það séu vílanlaus net, þar að segja menn eru ekki að búa til statísk vílun og hann miðar að því að menn geta verið með software defined network, þar sem að vílunin eru þá búin til á fluginu fyrir hvern einstakar notanda og hvaða tækjan með eða hvaða samhengi sem menn vilja. Þannig að 2 samstarfsmenn, annar sem kemur sína eigin tölvu en hinn með tölvu frá fyrirtækinu, fá mismunandi leiðir í networkinu og það gert dýnamískt út frá reglum. Þetta eitthvað sem við höfum svo sem séð í radíustýrðum netum, en það sem kannski þægilegast við þetta, hérna þetta bara cloud-tól sem sér þetta, það þarf engan búnað heima í húsum. Og það sem við líka gerst við það að það komi meira reiknað auðvitað eru allir þessi svissar og tæki nútíma sem miklu meiri reikningeta heldur en nokkuð vera að nota. Þannig að stór hluti af, við getum sagt, því sem að við erum að venjast tökum bara dæmi eldveggur, stór hluti af því sem að við erum að sjá það, til dæmis eins og traffic analysis og annað sem við höfum ekki getað gert í endabúnaðinum. Núna hægt að framleiða þetta í netinu. Og ég get bara sýnt ykkur svona einfalda mynd. Hér erum við bara með þráðlausa punkta og við erum bara með einn notanda, að hér þetta með safnar þetta kerfi út frá header analysis það er að segja með því að skoða bara traffíkina, þá sortar hún og flokkar niður, við erum bara búin að haka við viljum application monitoring, ég sé strax niður á hvern einasta notanda eða hópnotanda tækið eða hvernig notkun er. Og þetta svo sem upplýsingar sem við erum vanir að sjá hvaðan, úr eldveggjum. Þannig að það sem Aruba að gera að setja meira kontról ofan í endabúnaðinn, þannig að ákvarðanir séu teknar strax. Það þýðir jafnframt að ég segja að miðjubúnaðurinn ekki til reiðu. Ef það slökkt á Aruba Central, þá mun stærstu hlutin af þjónustunni halda áfram að gera. Og nota bene, tækin frá Aruba eru ekki bundin við að vera tengt við Central. Viðskiptavinur sem kaupir til dæmis leyfi í 3 ár, tengi sig við þetta umhverfi, vill ekki borga leyfi sin lengur, hann bara aftengi sig. Kontróli fer bara ofan í tækin sjálf og menn halda áfram að reka þau og keyra þau á gamlu forsendunum. Þannig að, og samaskapi eins og Frank sagði áðan, þeir leitast við að vernda eignarhald og það kannski svona eitthvað competitive edge sem menn hafa þá á Cisco. Hér, til dæmis í Aruba heiminum þetta bara mjög einfalt. Við þurfum ekki að selja ykkur þjónustusamninga til þess að hafi leyfi til þess að uppfæra stýrikerfi. A lifetime warranty á búnaðinum, lifetime updates á stýrikerfunum. Það er engin auka lína á reikningu þegar menn kaupa Aruba.punkt sem segir þjónustusamningur í 1 ár eða 3 ár til þess að fá leyfi til þess að uppfæra stýrikerfi. Hins vegar leið eins og bara eðlilegt leið og þeir tilkynna að þeir séu hættir að viðhalda stýrikerfinu þá þetta endar það. Og það er bara á þessum eðlilegu tímum 8 ár eða 10 ár eða hvað það er. Ég get jafnframt og ég sé kannski get ekki farið í þaula ofan í, þá get ég séð áhættugreiningu á vefserfunum sem að þessi einstaklingur sem nota bene ég hefur farið inn á og hér fæ ég bara svona einfalt svona, hvað ég að segja, eitthvað breakdown um það hvað ég hefur að gera út frá einhverju categorization. Trustworthy 97%, moderate risk, low risk, suspicious, incomplete. Nú, ef við tökum bara þennan einstakling sem er hér, þetta örugglega, ég sýni ykkur bara á því hvað sé ég. og nota bene, hvað sé ég? Hérna sé ég að þetta smart device, þetta Apple sími, ekkert merkilegt við það, einhverjar adressur og svo framvegis. Ég smelli hér á location, ég fæ teikningu af byggingunni og hún segir mér hvað hún Við erum bara með 2 accesspunkta hérna í þessari byggingu, þannig að hún ekki að fá triangulation, við erum ekki að fara niður í 1 metrin, en hún staðsetur basically tækið hérna við hliðina á punktinum. Mjög áhugavert í WiFi 6E búnaðnum sem að við erum komin núna með punkta, frá WiFi 6E útgáfu til 635. Það sem Frank var að segja áðan til þessu tæki að það sem sá staðallir að skila okkur fyrst og fremst meiri þéttleiki, meiri afköst fyrir marga undir punktinum. Og við erum með punkt sem búið að setja upp til dæmis íþróttamiðstöðinni í Úlfarsdal, 2 punktar sem fara inn í salinn. Það eru 512 sessionur undir hverju radíó í punktinum og það eru 3 radíó í punktinum. Þeorist hægt að tengja 1200 manns í punktinum. Ok, það lítið gagn af því ef að traffikin frá honum síðan bara 1 gig. Þannig að það sem við erum að sjá að eins og þeir punktar, þeir eru með 2 networking interface og geta 5 gigabit á sekúnd aðfrás. Og núna Aruba var bara að ná sér og komið með á lager í Evrópu, punkt sem heitir 615E og það þá svona medium græja, hann myndi kosta svona kannski 75.000 kall stykki hérna á Íslandi. Sú græja sem WiFi 6E líka, tökum bara dæmi í skóla þar sem við erum með kennslustofurnar, 25 manns, en svo erum við með salinn eða gangana, þar sem allir safna saman í hrúgur, að það þarf ekki að fjölga punktum til þess að auka afköstin. Þannig að WiFi 6 og WiFi 6E fyrst og fremst að fara að bjóða upp á styttri, þetta 6 gigahertz band sem verður væntanlega notað fyrir mest fyrst og fremst í upphæði og síðan þannig að það eru meiri afköst undir hverjum punkti. Það það sem við erum að sækjast eftir. Nú, í þessum þessari, þegar ég var að sýna ykkur til dæmis bara hvað þessi einstaklingur eða client og nota bene, ég get ítt á application flipan hér og sé nákvæmlega hvað við gert á þessum síma. Síðan það sem kannski ég ætla að segja ykkur frá að ég fer hérna í profile og ok, það sem við erum búin að gera hérna, Helgi P, kollegi okkar, Mr. Aruba og Gummi, sem með Microsoft, að opinkerfi, við erum með Active Directory okkar í Azure, eins og allir. Við erum í hybrid ennþá, þannig að við erum báðum megin. Þessi infrastruktúr sem við erum í hér núna, hann þannig að við erum búin að tengja Azure, ATI okkar og Central saman. Þeir eru vinir, búkkuðu sig saman bara á einhverju standard. Síðan gerist það að Central, þegar ég tengi þegar ég kom með farsímann minn, ég downloadaði einhverju appi, setti inn net profile fyrir sittið sem heitir OK AU eða eitthvað svoleiðis. Og við það var til rafrænt skilríki á símanum sem ég á persónulega og ég tengist með 802.nets kryptaðri tengingu við punktinn sem auðkennir sig gagnvart Aruba Central, sem auðkennir sig gagnvart Azure, Active Directory. Ef einhver ferjur inn, reynir sendi mig frí og vill ekki gera neitt í vinnunni, þá disablar hann mig sem notanda í AD-inu og ég sambandi við mig rofna strax. Og þið sjáu hérna í Aruba Central og þið sjáu hérna authorization að hérna eru Active Directory, þið sjá bæði hvað þetta deildi þið sjá identity Azure og hérna sjáu þið grúppunar sem ég þarf að vera meðlimur í til þess að ég megi gera þetta. Þannig að þarna erum við búin að taka einhverja skýjaþjónustu sem að hverjum ekki sama firmware updates eða eitthvað svoleiðis sem gert endrum og sinnum. Aðalatriðið að það sé eitthvað meira value út úr þessu heldur bara að vita hvað í gangi, hvernig við forritum það. Þannig að þessi skýjaþjónusta hefur tilhneigingu til þess að vera öryggissker og hjálpa okkur við reksturinn hjá notendunum og við innsýnina. Og við gerðum prufu, við eigum erum með leiguplattform og sem við höfum verið að leigja og við erum með viðskiptastjóri sem í hótelrekstri og við köllum hann bara demosystem eða eitthvað svoleiðis og ég get hoppað inn og notabene við erum búin að vera að nota þetta Aruba Central í allt sumar. Þetta drullur hræðilegt. Það eiginlega alveg ótrúlega hvað þetta hræðilegt. Miðað við það að við erum að vinna á datacenter einhverjum sýndarvélum út í Aruba. En það sem ég ætla að sýna ykkur sem sagt eitthvað demo site. Hérna erum við með einhverja staðsetningu sem með 37 access-punktum tengt við einhvern sviðs og notabene, út ég var að segja bara, hérna erum við fyrst og hálfa access. Strax í þessu tóli þá fæ ég með því að gera LLTP í rauninu bara að skoða og sér græjan hvað næsta hoppið í svissum og á hvað portan tengt. Og þetta eru heimskir svissar, þetta eru non-managed svissar bara eitthvað sixeldót og whatnot. Þannig að bara við það eitt að húka þetta inn, þá fengum við innsýnið að hvernig þetta væri tengt og hvernig þetta virkaði. En ég er ekki að fara að fá topology, ég er ekki að fá teikna grafa því hvernig svissaplattforminn, en ég sé allavega hvernig þetta tengt. Og hérna er ég með lista yfir klientana og hérna erum við á þessum tíma sem ég er að skoða á, sem er 1 dagur, þá hafa komið inn á þetta umhverfi 706 klientar, það eru nú þegar 192 tengdir, failed, offline, þessi vantilega erum við koma og fóru. Og það er mjög mikið rennir í hótelbransanum svo sem á Íslandi. Og það sem er mjög áhugavert er að við höfum verið að skoða, til dæmis eins og þetta, bara með því að horfa á það. Af hverju eru klientar að feila í að tengjast við Wi-Fi? Og einfalda skýringin á því að í flestum tilfellum þeir að labba út úr Wi-Fi skýinu, flestir út aðalingum hússins, út á bílastæði og slikna. Og tækinn þeir að reyna að endur tengjast. Það sýnir ykkur líka, bara einfaldlega, ef ég skoða floorplan eða bara teikningar á húsinu, förum á fyrstu hæðina. Þetta er teikning sem er bara tekin af vefnum hjá Reykjavíkurborg, bara byggingavefnum. Þetta er sjálfsagt frá því in the 80s eða hvenær við báðum eitthvað. Við bara klipptum þetta niður, importurum þetta sem JPG-skrá inn í kerfið. Ég heiti 15 mínútum með að teikna veggina. Ég hef 2 valkost á veggjum, þunnur veggur og steyptur veggur. Við tökum access-punktana, drögum á hendum með inn. Og eins og þið sjáu hér, þá svo sem það er ekki mikill tækifæri til að gera triangulation og fá location á búnaðinum. Þið sjáu tenginguna en það er fyrst og vegna þess að punkturinn veit svona cirka bát í hvað átt klientinn er, en hann veit ekki neitt dýpra, hann veit ekki hvort að þessi notandi situr hér. En það skiptir bara ekkert öllu máli. Það skiptir öllu máli fyrir okkur bara að vita á hvaða punkt hann er og hvað hann er. Við langar bara að sýna ykkur svona alveg beautiful. Við hendum þessu inn og áttum svo fund með stjórnendunum fyrir þessa byggingu. Þeir voru ekki meðvitaðir það, þeir byggðu við húsið, sólstofu utan við. Þetta er gamla húsið og það er steinsteinn. Og ef þið horfið grænt er slæmt, ekki alltaf, en allavega hér, að þið sjáu að punktunum hér, að þeir sitja á borði og hafa sjónlínu við punktunum að fá ágætt Wi-Fi. En við tókum eftir því að það voru aðilar sem voru að detta inn út sem voru á þessum punkti og það sést alveg akkur. Gömlu gluggarnir í húsinu eru hér, þannig að það er verið að vinna í því núna að setja punkt sem að covera þetta. Þetta heatmapping er bara gert með drag og drop, ekkert annað. Og taka einu svona byggingu svo þetta var kannski svona hálftíma vinna að henda þessu inn. góðu fréttirnar eru þær að ef ég með client, bara einhvern client, já, þetta tekna sig upp, kannilega. Ég get logið ef ég sé eitthvað góð vefnæði. Förum hérna og smellum á client, þá erum við að horfa á fókusin á þennan client. Ég sé eitthvað svona, að við höfum ekki virkjað application pathinu. Förum hérna í overview, segjum location og að öllu jöfnu ætti hún að finna teikninguna. Hún ætti að zooma inn á hæðina sem hann á. Hún ekki að virka hjá mér áðan. Þess vegna. En ok, við erum þá bara hérna í kaflanum sem segir virkar ekki. Annað sem við langaði bara að henda á okkur, kannski var það falið í öllum glærunum frá Frank, það er þetta dæmi sem heitir UXI, User Experience Insight. Ok, kannski eru flestir hérna sem eiga ekki Aruba Network og eitthvað. En User Experience Insight eða UXI kemur frá litlu fyrirtæki sem að HPE kaupir og þeir voru svona eitthvað startup og hvað þeir að gera? Þeir eru með eitthvað sensor, eitthvað tæki sem þeir farið með inn í byggingu og það mælir gæðin á þjónustunni sem veitt. Tökum bara Kópavogsbæ sem dæmi, erum með Cisco Network, það getur keypt sér 10 UXI sensora eða 30 eða 100, hvað það stungið bara í hvert skóla á einhvern stað og það sem græjan að gera, hún að keyra 72 próf, alls konar, hún pröfar Teams-fullt. Og hún simulerar notkun notanda. Það sem þetta gerir síðan að þetta hendir inn í einhvern plattform, svona broskalla plattform sem að Ingimar Friðriksson forstuðum tölvudeildarinn getur farið inn í eða bæjarstjórinn eitthvað. Það sýnir bara broskalla, fílukalla eða gulakalla og segir manni frá því hvernig líðanin er. Ef einhver er að gera samning við þriðja aðila að halda úti tölvurekstri fyrir sig og hvernig eigum við að gæðamæla það? Að svona sensorar eru tilvalið apparat til þess að gera þetta. Þeir eru, ég veit ekki hvort þið ráku augunni, hann var að tala Zebra handtölvur. Það er stórt issue í sérstaklega verslunarrekstrinum, þar sem allt gengur út á hraða og menn er að tína til kerrur og annað með einhverjum tækjum. Það er ekkert að mælt gæðin á merkinu fyrir Zebra tölvuna á hvaða tíma sem er. Retail er allt á kafi þessu. Og vegna þess að skipti bara geysilega miklu máli að starfsmaðurinn sem vinnur með þetta tæki og fær bara fyrirmæli á hendina eða hvað hann er, sé í góðu sambandi, alltaf. Og að hann sé hægt að finna út hvar hann í slæmu sambandi og laga það strax. Þess vegna er þessi áhersla á Zebra. Einhverjar spurningar hér úr sali eða utan úr heiminum? Ef ekki, þú ert kannski bara að bjóða reyni að kveðja ykkur.
Er eitthvað spurningar á annan? Nei, það er svona skýrt. Það eru að borga fyrir svona UXI greið.
Þetta er svona 50.000 kall leyfið og tækið.
Hvað er þetta með leyfið þá lengi?
3 ár.
3 ár?
Já, þetta er svona 1 ár, 3 ár, 5 ár, 7 ár. Og það er takkt að færa þetta til. Við höfum velt fyrir okkur eitthvað svona að eiga 2 stykki, við getum farið með þetta til kunna og sett þetta inn í viku eða eitthvað. Það er mjög áhugavert og sérstaklega.
Og tala það þá við Central í
Nei, þeir eru með sinn eigin plattform en eins og allt þegar menn að taka við það er byrjað að lauma upplýsingunum úr UXI inn í Central. Ja, og þeir eru að gera það út af AI, Artificial Intelligence og ég er svo sem sleppti að sýna ykkur að það er alls konar tillögur frá græjunni að draga úr radíóstyrknum hér og þarna eftir að við settum upp teikningarnar fyrir kerfið. Þannig að það er alltaf að læra.
Ég fleiri spurningar, þessi maður er mikil riskur brönnur að kemur að...
Hvernig er verðið á þessu? Það var svo svennilega búnað sem gera það sama.
Ertu að meina verðið á Central?
Nei, bara svo Access Point og Swiss og...
Sama verð. Þið eru bara samkeppnishæfir í verðum og ég sé nú alveg opástað ljótur út að ég seldi Cisco í mörg ár. Það sem kannski skilur á milli okkar í verðlagningunni á sérstaklega Aruba switching og Cisco switching að við erum ekki að selja DNA-leyfið. Sem svona cirka 20% af leyfinu, 20% af verðinu.
Hvað svipað á Cisco?
Þetta eru enterprise búnaður sem í sömu grunni. Competitive eða svona samkeppnisforskoti sem við teljum okkur hafa tvenns konar. Við þurfum ekki að selja þessa djúpu þjónustusamninga og að við þurfum ekki að selja leyfi sem menn ekki að nota. Hins vegar, ekki að neita, ég að fara að selja ykkur Aruba Central. Og það bara á svipuðu grunni og Meraki leyfi sem við sjáum fyrir Meraki plattformin eða leyfin sem við sjáum fyrir DNA sem notabene ekki með lausn sem menn geta nýtt sér.
Ef við verið fá og skoða umhverfið, það þarf að vera með leyfi fyrir hugsan og það þarf að vera með setra leyfi.
Nei. Uxi algjörlega bara sjálfstætt. Við erum með bara eitt sensor, eitt leyfi og þá færðu bara eitt plattform og eitt bróskall. Ok. Takk hérlega fyrir komuna og við bara segjum þessum þá bara lokið. Fyrir.